The sheriff for the first time, and we talked about the Constitution and law enforcement, and that most law enforcement is local, that if anybody understands and obeys the Bill of Rights and understands it more than local enforcement, I'm not sure of it. I think sometimes we forget about it in Washington, but I think every one of you know what the Fourth Amendment is. Every one of you know that you have to ask permission from a civilian court to go into someone's house. And so I've always been proud of law enforcement. I've become disturbed, though, and perplexed and unhappy about the way law enforcement's being treated across the country. And this is a big problem, and I think you're starting to hear about it and starting to feel it in your profession, and I think we need to talk about it. We need to be open as a society about it. I think that the media and many in public are, treating and portraying law enforcement as if, you're 99% bad. And I think it's the opposite. I think that law enforcement is 99% or higher good, and that there are occasionally bad people in law enforcement. But what we're doing is taking examples and then sort of portraying it with a broad brush and saying all law enforcement is bad. I had a guy come to one of my rallies, and we saw a shirt from the distance, and we thought at first it said defund the police, but it said defend the police, defund Antifa, which we kind of appreciated his t-shirt. I've been on the receiving end of violence. I know what it's like. I've seen and been in a situation where the police saved our lives. My wife and I were coming back from the Republican National Convention at our nation's, at the Capitol, at the White House. We're going across the street and a mob attacked us. And people want to make this about race. They say, you're saying that a black mob attacked you. Well, it was a mixed race mob. It was black and white. But the interesting thing is we were trying to make it to a corner where there were 3 policemen and 2 out of the 3 were black. So our lives were saved that day by black police officers. This isn't about race. I've talked to many black police officers who tell me it's about right and wrong. It's about whether we're going to let mob rule our cities. It's about Seattle on fire and Portland on fire. It isn't about race. It's about right and wrong. But we can't have sort of a semblance of law and order unless we appreciate what law and order and what our law enforcement is doing for us. There's talk of doing things in Washington. A big part of what I want to hear from you is what you think about police reform or any of the bills that are current, what you think shouldn't be in them, what you think we should or shouldn't do, and also just how things are on the ground. Now, I think up here probably the public treats you a little bit different than the public might be treating people in some of our other cities. So I think that's good. Maybe your experience isn't as bad, but we still want to hear about it and about your recruiting and how things are going. But I, for one, think it's a crazy notion to defund the police. I think that the people who will hurt the worst are the people who actually live in neighborhoods where there is more crime. If you're in a poor neighborhood and there's more crime there's going to be even more crime if we have no police. So vilifying the police, defunding the police, I think is the absolute opposite of what we should be doing. I'm open to reforms, but I want to hear from you guys about what the reforms should be. I'm really a believer in local autonomy, so I think actually most reforms ought to be done at the state and local level. Our state legislature has done some things. So frankly, while I'm very pro law enforcement, I've also been one who thinks that the no-knock raids really weren't a great idea. I've asked many of the sheriffs around the rural counties, and most of them said they weren't using no-knock raids anyway.